My name is Emily. I am currently a full-time homemaker, but I used to work in a hospital until retirement. I met my husband John when I was working at the hospital. John was working for a pharmaceutical company at the time, delivering medicine to the hospital. John was very sociable, and he was popular among the hospital staff. On days when he delivered medicine, the nurses would compete to see who would assist him. One day, when there were few people around, I happened to assist him. Then I found a note in the documents. The note had John's phone number and read, "I would love to have tea with you sometime." If one of the other competing nurses had found it, they would have contacted him right away. However, I didn't know who the note was for, so I was unsure who to deliver it to. I wondered if he was asking me to mediate with someone he was interested in. Since I rarely had the chance to see John and didn't know when I would again, I felt sorry and decided to call the number on the note. "Thank you for everything. My name is Emily. Could you tell me who Mr. John wants to contact? I found a note the other day and wanted to deliver it, so I called you."
Thank you for your help as always. That note was for you, Emily. I've wanted to give it to you for a while, but we rarely meet. I'm glad I saw you today.
At that time, I was more passionate about my work than about romance. I wanted to use my knowledge and experience to help patients and give my best effort. "Thank you for your kind thoughts, Mr. John, but right now I want to focus on my job."
Seeing your work every day, I felt that way. Would it be okay to start as friends if it's not too much trouble?
Afterward, John made an effort to appeal to me without affecting my work. It was my first time being pursued like this, and I was surprised by John's passion, gradually becoming attracted to him. Eventually, John and I started dating and decided to get married. We had kept our relationship a secret from our co-workers, so they were surprised when we announced it. "I thought you would stay single for a life," they said. And I replied that I had thought so too. It's a fond memory now. Since both of our parents had passed away, we invited relatives and colleagues and had a modest wedding. After our dear son was born, our lives changed drastically and became very busy. As time went by, it was just John and me living a modest life with our pension and savings. John wanted to build a bigger house, but I think the size of our current house is enough. "It will be hard to clean if it's bigger," I said, and we decided on the size of our current house. Once we got married and started living together, John tried to impose the old-fashioned belief that men shouldn't do housework. Nowadays, he helps with shopping and taking out the trash, but it took a long discussion to get to this point. It took a long time just to get him to help with the trash, and I never thought that the peaceful life we finally achieved would be shaken by a trivial matter. I believed that these calm days would last forever. As a parent, I thought my son Mike's marriage would be a milestone in life. Watching him grow up, becoming an adult, getting a job and marrying, I felt I had done my duty as a parent. Mike's partner, Julia, is a bright woman with strong opinions, a perfect match for him. I was grateful when Julia joined our family. I decided to quietly support and observe their new start without interfering. Mike and his wife Julia, who lived in a nearby apartment, used to visit our house often until Mike's job required him to live away. Julia wanted to learn cooking, and I got so involved in teaching her everything. Before I knew it, we had gone way over the planned time. Maybe it was a nuisance for the young couple. I thought I should apologize the next time they visited. Then one day Mike came to me with a serious face to talk, and I braced myself for something unexpected. I thought maybe they were upset. It would be sad if they wanted to cut ties and move out. While suppressing my feelings, I tried to keep a calm face and asked, "What's wrong? Are you worried about something?"
No. Julia is pregnant.
Oh, congratulations. I had been expecting bad news, so my heart leaped with joy when I heard the announcement. Under normal circumstances, Julia would have been taken care of at her parents' house until the birth, but it seems she has no relatives. Even so, living alone while pregnant is worrisome, and finding an obstetrician at Mike's new job location would be difficult. Julia wished to give birth at a nearby hospital, so she asked if they could live with us for a while, and I immediately said, of course. I was as happy about Julia's pregnancy as I was when Mike got married. What mother wouldn't rejoice at the news of her son having a child? I was certainly filled with joy. I remembered how, when I was pregnant with Mike, I had no relatives and was very grateful for the help of John's relatives. I decided to be as supportive as possible to make Julia's stay comfortable. After living together for a month, I thought Julia was comfortable, even if it's strange to say so myself. I prepared balanced meals and helped her with household chores within her limits as a form of exercise. Yet, amidst our life together, there was one concern. John and Julia were unusually close. They were so intimate that I sometimes wondered if something was going on. I had no concrete evidence, but some moments made me suspicious. As a result, there was tension between Julia and me. Julia seemed annoyed by my presence, trying to follow her doctor's advice, and would go out for walks, secretly buying and eating sweets. When I found a lot of candy wrappers in Julia's room, I thought it wasn't good for her and decided to talk about it. Julia, did you buy all this and eat it yourself? Is my cooking not enough for you?
Yes, it's a bit too little and the taste is too bland for me. I'm pregnant, so I thought I should eat for two.
Eat for two, huh? That's an old-fashioned idea. Nowadays, rapid weight gain during pregnancy can increase risks during childbirth, you know.
Yes, I get it. I understand. I won't do it anymore. Is that okay now?
Since I also lost my parents early, I understand how Julia feels. Being without relatives is lonely, but it also means living without nagging and doing things my way. Probably, I am an unwelcome presence to Julia. After that, Julia and I had several clashes. Not all issues could be overlooked. For example, when Julia complained that her doctor advised her she was gaining too much weight, I reduced one side dish from her meals.
What? You're reducing it again? It's already too little.
Yes, I am, but I've added more ingredients to the soup.
You might think you're being considerate, but isn't this like mistreatment?
I want to let her eat whatever she likes, but I must be strict for the health of mother and child. I knew constant restrictions could be stressful, so I tried to create satisfying meals, even in small quantities. The flavor might be lighter, but I made efforts like making rich stock or using soy meat. I realized these efforts were in vain when I came back from shopping one day. Something felt different as I went to the bedroom, and I noticed my duvet was missing. Searching for it, I found it thrown in the garden. The duvet had absorbed the muddy rainwater from yesterday, looking miserable. As I stood dumbfounded, John and Julia came near, laughing. Even someone as insensitive as me could guess who did it by their behavior, but I had no idea why they would do such a thing. John? Julia? What's this about? What's going on?
Don't you understand? A pension-eating parasite like you should just sleep in the garden, right?
What kind of talk is that? There's a limit to joking.
I'm telling the truth. It's only because your husband worked hard that you got a pension, right? And yet here you are, an old woman doing nothing at home, acting all high and mighty. Isn't it funny, bullying your son's young wife? You must be having a great time. A terrible old lady like you deserves to be thrown out of the house, right?
As Julia said this, she leaned against John, who also showed a not-so-displeased smile.
So, you were enjoying bullying your daughter-in-law? Pathetic. If you can't accept it, leave.
Hearing those cold words from the man I had loved, I wondered if he was the husband I knew. Shocked, I realized there was no one in this house on my side. I decided to protect myself. Understood. I packed my essentials and a few clothes into a bag and the rest into a cardboard box. Then I loaded everything into my car's trunk and left the house. I lived in a hotel while searching for a new place. 2 weeks into my hotel stay, John sent a message asking if I had reflected on my actions, but I ignored it. I ignored all calls. The voicemails and messages were one-sided accusations, so I saved them, thinking they might be useful in a future divorce case. It was time for me to start looking for a place to live. I wanted somewhere peaceful, a place where I could relax. While thinking of consulting a real estate agent about a new place, I received a call from my sister-in-law, Rose.
Hi, Emily. It's been a while. Are you doing okay? Sorry for the sudden call.
Oh, hi, sister-in-law. It's been a long time. I'm fine. It's nice to hear your voice. Rose is John's older sister by 2 years. She's dedicated to volunteer work and travels all over. Being an only child, I always felt Rose was like a real sister to me. Even if it was just a call to check in, I was happy to hear from her.
Listen, I have a favor to ask. Like last time, could I stay with you for a few days? Is it a bother?
Usually hard to reach, she said she was on a longer break from her activities. I wanted to meet and talk right away, but considering my current situation, I couldn't give an immediate answer. Of course. I'd love to say please do, but I've left home and I'm living in a hotel right now.
Really? Can I get the address of your hotel then? It sounds like a complicated story. Shall we meet and talk about it?
As I told Rose the address over the phone and sent the hotel location through the messaging app, she came right over. I apologized for not being able to welcome her properly, but she said she had been nearby on other business anyway. After ordering room service and enjoying pleasant conversation, I brought up the main topic. So, Julia wanted to return to her hometown for childbirth, but since she has no relatives, she ended up living in our house, and now she's staying there.
Julia, that's Mike's wife, right? What happened between you two?
I explained everything in order. Initially, I got along well with Julia, but somehow she started to dislike me. As my relationship with Julia worsened, John and Julia got closer. My duvet was thrown in the garden, and after being verbally abused, I left the house.
John is such a fool to think he'd join in and drive his wife out of her home. Emily, what are your plans now?
Given the situation, I'm considering divorcing John. I was thinking of finding a place where I can live alone. Rose, who acts quickly once she decides something, suggested we first go to the house together the next day. Even if I was set on divorce, it would be better to talk it out first, she said. Her words were a relief to me. I wanted to change my situation, but I hesitated to go back to that house alone. I'm sorry for involving you in our marital issues.
What are you saying? You're my dear sister-in-law. Don't worry about it. John is getting too cocky. We need to put him in his place.
The next day, I decided to return to the house alone for now. I had already informed John that I wanted him to fill out a divorce form. The person who welcomed me when I rang the doorbell was Julia, with a visibly larger belly.
Finally decided to divorce, huh? Don't you realize you've been a burden to my father-in-law? It's too late.
Julia threw snide remarks at me, seemingly trying to provoke me. Ignoring her, I went to the living room where John was sitting on the sofa, arms crossed. John, as we discussed before, let's get divorced. I placed the divorce papers I had gotten from the town hall on the table. John tore up the divorce papers as soon as he saw them. Puzzled, I stared at him, and John gave me a meaningful smile.
So, you're pretending to want a divorce to get my attention, huh? Cute. Are you jealous of Julia?
John's smile disgusted me, and I backed away. I don't understand. What are you talking about? Sorry, but I have no such feelings as trying to get your attention or jealousy. There's no way I would feel that way about someone I no longer care about. As I spoke calmly without inflection, John began to explain, surprised by my unexpected reaction. He said he got close to Julia because he wanted me to get jealous. If I apologized to John out of jealousy, he planned to live as if nothing had happened. He said there was no need for a divorce and that I was his only wife. But my heart couldn't change just because he said that. If he truly cared about me, he would have shown his love differently, and I wonder why he didn't act sooner. My heart has already drifted away from John. It's too late, even if he's kind to me now. Wait, please. I'm sorry, but my decision hasn't changed. I want a divorce.
Lucky you, father-in-law. She's been whining about wanting to leave you all this time, right?
Julia, can you be quiet for now? Emily, just to confirm, do you want a divorce? Are you stupid? Emily isn't someone who jokes about such things. After all these years together, what have you been seeing in her? Why is my sister here?
As I was about to confirm with yes to John's question, Rose entered the living room using the key I had given her. John was stunned, and Julia, who knew of her by name but likely seeing her for the first time, looked bewildered.
Are you my father-in-law's sister? I'm so sorry I haven't greeted you yet. Nice to meet you, I'm Julia, Mike's wife.
Oh, how polite of you. Nice to meet you too. So you're the person who bullied and drove out my dear sister-in-law?
Rose, who had been listening in the hallway, wasn't smiling with her eyes. As Rose held back her anger, John tried to intervene, but Julia stepped forward from behind him and spoke up.
No, it's me who's been bullied.
Is that so? Then let's talk to the police and file a report if necessary.
The police?
You said you're being harassed by Emily, right? If that's the case, even just talking to the police can help. I have a friend in the police who specializes in domestic violence. I can introduce you if you like.
No, it's not domestic violence, and well, it's not something to make a big deal about.
Julia suddenly became flustered. Of course, I haven't harassed her, so there's no situation where she could file a report. It's more likely Julia would be questioned about the inconsistencies in her story by the police. Seeing Julia fall silent and unable to say anything further, Rose corrected.
Just to clarify, it's not Emily who's struggling with the pension, it's John. I don't know what this fool has told you, but it's Emily who's been supporting the household finances. It's undeniable. She's considered a renowned doctor in this town, you know.
Rose looked at me and said,
Sorry for the strange way of putting it.
I shook my head to imply that it was completely fine. In reality, I had worked as a doctor in this town until my retirement. When Rose was seriously ill, I was the surgeon who operated on her. I was just fulfilling my duty as a doctor, but Rose seemed grateful. Since I told her I would be happy if we could get along, we have had a good relationship for a long time. Even after I met John and became his wife, our relationship as sisters-in-law remained unchanged, and we laughed at how strange fate can be. So, contrary to what Julia said, I'm not a greedy person. I worked hard and saved, and now I have $100,000 in my bank account. Julia doesn't know, but this $100,000 is in a different account from the one I usually use. Since John lied about our household running on his income, Julia believed him.
Oh, is that true? Then the money for this house is...
Emily has been shouldering all of it, but if they get divorced, John will have to pay for everything. Sister, I'm telling you I'm not getting divorced. Still the same fool, John. Still saying that? You brought this on yourself. If you had empathized with Emily's feelings, this wouldn't have happened.
I casually pulled out the divorce papers I had obtained from the city hall and placed them on the table. It was a good thing I brought several copies in case of any mistakes. I'm serious. No matter how long it takes, I will divorce you. I no longer want to be part of your family. Please understand that. Leaving the two of them in shock, I left the room with Rose. I was prepared for mediation or court, but a few days later things started to move unexpectedly. Surprisingly, the divorce from John was finalized smoother than I thought. The main reason was probably Rose's scolding. Also, the fact that I didn't demand damages but instead secured a pledge that we would never interact again might have been effective. Whether it was because I stopped doing household chores or they realized the financial situation, Julia seemed to be trying to keep me from leaving. I got messages through John, but I found them bothersome and blocked them. They probably needed a maid who would also pay them, but I was no longer a part of that household. Rose, concerned about my hotel stay, introduced me to a real estate agent she knew well. The properties they showed were appealing, and it seemed like I would make a satisfying choice. From those, I chose a comfortable place and signed the contract. Finally, I found a place where my heart could settle. Since I had few belongings, I managed the move by myself. While arranging my new residence, my main concern was about Mike. Although my marriage with John was over, my blood-related son was still family. I had kept the truth hidden, not wanting to disturb Mike's work, but I thought he wouldn't understand without knowing the full story, especially about the divorce. It was distressing, but I decided to call and explain the situation. "Hello, Mike. Sorry to call during work. Do you have a moment?"
It's been a while, Mom. No, I just finished. What's up?
Despite the sudden call, Mike responded kindly. His kindness gave me strength, and I confessed everything. I explained Julia and John's behavior since the joint living arrangement started, and why I had to leave the house. There was anger in Mike's usually calm voice. "I'm sorry. Maybe I should have kept silent about it."
No, I'm glad you told me. What Julia said was completely different, so it's good to know the truth.
Mike had been told by Julia that she was being bullied and was struggling a lot. He wanted to believe Julia's words, but with no evidence and unable to doubt his mother, he was conflicted.
So, do you have any proof that Mom bullied or harassed you? Like recordings or photos?
What? Just my word isn't enough? Can't you protect your beloved wife? That's harsh, Mike.
Julia was sniffling and saying something, but Mike responded calmly.
If you're being treated badly by my mom, you can come to my place. It's a bit small and far, so it might be inconvenient, but you'll be away from Mom.
Okay, thank you. But I'll try to endure a little longer.
Even over the phone, Mike felt there was a lack of credibility in Julia's story.
I'm coming back this weekend, so I'll talk to Julia and sort things out. Mom, you don't have to force yourself to come. You wouldn't want to see Julia, and it wouldn't do much now anyway.
Feeling like a pitiful mother yet agreeing with Mike's suggestion, I nodded. A few days later, when Mike visited my new home, he seemed mentally exhausted. "What's wrong? Are you okay? Did she say something?"
I was prepared for Julia to only say things convenient for her, but it was worse than I thought. I'm not sure how to explain.
I listened as Mike carefully chose his words. Essentially, despite Mike's logical arguments and reprimands, Julia reacted with anger. Far from being reflective, Julia blamed Mike, who was on a work assignment away from home.
It's not my fault. You left me alone. John loves and protects me.
Shockingly, Julia confessed to having an affair with John. Julia showed Mike their message exchanges on the app, saying how much John cared for her. Photos of them enjoying dates under the guise of prenatal checkups were also found. Even as he overheard the conversation, John made no effort to apologize to Mike and just blankly watched TV. Witnessing this situation, Mike felt that saying anything more to these two would be pointless. I'm so shocked. I'm at a loss for words.
Anyone would be. I still can't believe it's real. It feels like a bad dream.
Realizing that my ex-husband and daughter-in-law had nurtured love, I remembered how unusually close the two of them had been. My unease hadn't been just a misconception. Even I was so dumbfounded that I couldn't find the words. Mike must be even more shocked.
Anyway, I can't continue as a couple with Julia. I'm thinking about divorcing her. And also want to reconsider how I interact with Dad as a family.
That's understandable. I respect your decision, Mike. I'll help with anything, so feel free to talk to me anytime.
Thanks, Mom. I'll take care of it.
Julia thought Mike would apologize and they could restart as a couple. However, she was taken aback when Mike brought the divorce papers and reacted irrationally with complaints and accusations. Ultimately, they decided to discuss it through a lawyer. The evidence was ample, as I had kept a detailed diary of their behavior while Mike was away. Thanks to a capable lawyer, the divorce was finalized, with Julia being found responsible. After the divorce, the self-centered Julia tried to marry John, but he refused, concerned about public opinion, which infuriated her. Julia left the house once, but couldn't stand living frugally alone, having gotten used to a lavish lifestyle. Consequently, they awkwardly continued living together in the large house. Meanwhile, Mike and I started moving forward in our lives. Mike gained custody of his child, Noelle, and began living as a father and son in a small apartment. While Mike worked from home, there were times he couldn't take care of Noelle. During those times, I would go over to look after the very cute and tiny Noelle. Despite various feelings towards Julia, I remind myself that the child is innocent. I've also grown accustomed to life in my new home. During the first week of having time for myself, I thought free time is the best and enjoyed it immensely. But gradually I felt restless doing nothing and started cleaning places I'd been putting off. This kick-started my energy, and before I knew it, my house was sparkling clean. Eventually, I ran out of places to clean, and once again I had too much free time on my hands. I began to feel it was a waste just doing housework. With some savings, I thought about starting something new, but wasn't sure what to do. Considering it a chance for a fresh start, I thought about using my experience. When I discussed it with Mike, he said,
"You're bound to get bored,"
and gave me lots of ideas. The one that caught my interest the most was the idea of posting videos.
"Mom, you can do many things, but why not start something different? You have many hobbies. How about posting videos?"
But are there people interested in videos like mine?
Some people watch or listen to household videos while doing something else. Even if there's no need, it's good if you enjoy it, right?
I thought video posting was only for the young. But research showed people of all ages use it to express themselves. Seeing others make videos like a diary, I felt I could do it too. Still, starting without knowing anything was a bit scary, so I decided to get advice from Rose, who has a video channel. Thank you always. You've helped me so much.
Don't be silly. Even if we're not legally sisters anymore, Emily, you're my dear sister. Of course, I support your new start.
Rose, thank you.
Let's go out whenever we have time, without hesitation, and I support your video efforts too.
Following Rose's advice, I gathered equipment and posted a trial video, which received more response than expected. The comment section had many questions. Just answering them seemed enough to make several more videos. I was touched by the kindness of experienced video creators who were so helpful to someone with no connections. Now I post once a month, gradually increasing the number without overdoing it. The steady increase in subscribers motivates me to create better videos. Starting something new might seem impossible or difficult, but I believe my eagerness to learn has saved lives during my time as a doctor. I plan to keep challenging myself in various fields, maintaining a mindset of daily learning.